A regular meeting of the City Council was held in Council Chamber on Thursday, May 10th, 2018 at 7 p.m. for the purpose of transacting any and all business. Notice of this meeting was posted on May 8th, 2018 at 9:25 a.m. This meeting is being taped and is live on SATV. For councilors absent, we just have Councilor Fury. Otherwise, all other members are present. I am the president and I am presiding. And so Councilor Milo moved to dispense with the reading of the record of the previous meeting. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Now I request that everyone rise to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. That will be led by Councilor Sargent.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public testimony. We have a few people here. First, we have Eric Papetti. And as always with public testimony, when you come up to the podium, you'll state your name and address, and you will speak directly to me, and this is not a time to ask questions of the counselor. So, Eric.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Eric Papetti of 11 Simmons Street, speaking in favor of the proposal to alter the zoning ordinance for the NRCC to allow for 1.5 spaces per unit instead of 2. I feel like this is a very well-researched and well-vetted proposal by both the planning board, the staff, and many of the city councilors who have been engaged as well. That said, I understand that certainly anytime we face a parking shortage, it's frustrating, but I would also emphasize that mandating too much residential parking comes at a cost as well, particularly through the cost of raising the overall cost of development in the city. Where developers end up passing on the cost of that parking to their buyers or tenants. It comes at an environmental cost as it creates more impervious surfaces where pollution can run off into our rivers and streams into Salem Sound, and by encouraging people who may have been satisfied with 1 car to end up with 2 instead, and increase the amount of traffic and parking issues elsewhere in our city as a result. Considering the proximity of the NRCC to downtown and to transit, and the data that we now have about parking utilization at existing developments, this change to 1.5 spaces is warranted, and I believe would have a positive effect on housing affordability in the city. I would also note that this policy, this proposed reform, is relatively conservative compared with what's happening in other parts of the country right now. Other cities across the U.S. with less density and less transit than Salem have already passed parking reforms that are far more aggressive. In 2015, Minneapolis completely removed their parking minimums for developments of less than 50 units, even outside of downtown. Earlier this year, Hartford, Connecticut voted to do away with their parking minimums as well. You can find smaller examples of this throughout New England, particularly in New Hampshire and Maine. So, in sum, I would encourage the adoption of this zoning change. I believe it would be a positive step towards increasing housing affordability, bettering environmental stewardship, and allowing for increased housing growth in the city while minimizing traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Anna Nuncio.
Anna Nuncio, 20 Winter Street. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the Latino community of Salem to respectfully request of the council that in this ad hoc search process for the new city clerk, that we include voices from all of the Salem community, but particularly the Latino community. We are at the cusp. I feel we are about to begin a new chapter in Salem. And we're immensely proud that we do have representation from our community on the council, but we also know that it is the ordinary folks from the community that provide a lot of insight and can mark a new chapter in the review, interviewing process of candidates. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Judith Riley.
Hi, I'm Judith Riley from West Avenue, 20 West Avenue, Unit 3, and I just wanted to let you know what a wonderful experience I had attending the ad hoc committee last night, and I only wish more people had been there, not just because you let members of the public speak and not just because you listened and acted upon things that we said, but because it was so open and transparent and honest and candid. I think it restored for me, well, I know it restored for me a lot of goodwill and faith in the process. And I can only hope that we've all learned a lot. I know sometimes painfully, but we can move forward together with a commitment to open and accountable government, to caring about compliance and to caring about each other, to taking our time. And I just wanted to point out that based on what I saw last night, a lot of planning goes into actually doing these things. And I know that originally it was planned that the council might have a vote at the next council meeting. I think, you know, you might want to reconsider your schedule so you can plan ahead. I'm hoping that after the ad hoc committee does its job of narrowing down to 3 candidates, that the rest of the process will be public, as you know, required by law, that you guys will have to give yourselves time to put some thought into it, and exactly like other people and Ms. Nuncio have said, you know, gather some input from the community, do some listening, and you know, have it as public as possible, and well, basically not try to squeeze it in 2 weeks. So thank you for doing a really great job. I appreciate it, and I hope that quote gets in the paper, because, you know, the last one was kind of angry. But thanks.
Thank you. Next we have Diane Robichaud.
Hi, thank you for hearing me. My name is Diane Robichaud. I have lived at 7 Foster Street for 52 years. Actually, 75 in Salem. I have, last summer, my grandson, who was in the middle school, attended a program for Salem kids called Healthy Harbor. Each summer, they do a different program on the environment. At the end of the summer, they give a presentation on what they found. I have gone to every one of them. Last summer, I was so impressed with these kids, I was astounded at the work that they did on this project. It was all about what cigarette butts do to our environment. They went all around Salem streets, Salem beaches, and collected hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cigarette butts in a jar this big. That people just discarded. They showed graphs and photos of where these dirty cigarette filters end up. When it rains or when it is windy, these filters go into our sewers and they travel out to the ocean. These filters are not biodegradable. Guess what happens next? The fish and the lobster don't know the difference between a cigarette butt or food, and they consume them. The next time you eat fish or lobster or order it at a restaurant, if you smoke, please think twice about throwing your butts in the street. The kids that worked in this project want a clean environment for the future. The adults do not honor Mother Nature. Foster Street, where I live, is loaded with cigarette butts that people discard before going into the restaurant, the daycare, and from across the street in Dunkin' Donuts, all the trash blows over. I have been sweeping my gutter and my neighbors for years, 52 exactly. The street sweeper needs to come down Foster Street on a regular basis. Between the butts and the trash people throw, it's like living in the ghetto. Another suggestion would be to have all the mini restaurants in Salem have butt buckets outside their establishments. How cheap is a butt bucket? And you know, I noticed when I was walking downtown in Salem, I saw a lot of butt buckets on the poles. But we have so many restaurants in Salem that what these people do is they have a cigarette, they throw it on the ground, they go in the restaurant. They come out of the restaurant, they light up a butt, they throw it on the ground. I just can't believe how dirty this city has become with trash and cigarette butts. I used to stay in Florida for 2 months in the winter, and if you ever as much as threw a piece of paper on the ground, you would be fined. Florida is a clean state. And also, throwing cigarette butts in the ground is a $50 fine. I don't think one person in this city has ever been fined. My friend and I walked downtown and couldn't believe all the cigarette butts in the gutter. It was disgusting. Any suggestions from the council on how to save our environment on this subject would be appreciated greatly. I just want to say one thing. I was at a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and Councilor Domingo was sitting in, and so was Councilor Fury. And after the meeting, I went up to both of them and I said, "Excuse me, but could I have a minute of your time?" Councilor Fury looked at me and he said, "If you make it real quick." Councilor Domingo looked at me and he said, "I'd love to give you some time." I said to Councilor Fury, "You know what? I don't even want to talk to you." I mean, how bad is that when a council says to you, "Make it quick"? So I commend you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Jeff Cohen.
Jeff Cohen, 12 Hancock Street. Two real quick things. First, cigarette butts are recyclable. That's why you have butt bins. They're made out of a kind of plastic, believe it or not. Second of all, I'd like to reinforce what Eric said at his public comment. I don't know if people are aware, but Cambridge, Massachusetts has an initiative. It's actually through an ordinance. It's a zero-car ordinance, and that is the goal. And if you work to that goal, you might reach it. I'm here to talk about the City Clerk Ad Hoc Committee. I think that the search and the decision should be for this term, and that a robust search that goes outside of just the posting should happen for the full 3-year term that follows. It's not about having some good candidates, but doing everything we can as a city to make sure we have exhausted all the possibilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And finally, we have Scott Sternberg.
Scott Sternberg, 25 Pickman Road. Thank you very much, Council President. I want to echo what one of the earlier speakers said, Judith, about how open and interactive and a clear process that was occurring between the public that attended the ad hoc committee and between the public and the councilors and the other members of the committee. So I greatly appreciate that. I think it's really important. I'm still disappointed that there isn't community representation on there, and I hope that that will be considered at future times, particularly if this is stage 1 for the current term, and that there'll be a follow-up for the November term. I also, as I mentioned at the ad hoc, that it was very unclear for many people in the community as to what the current status was of the assistant clerk, the acting city clerk, or the city clerk. And I would reinforce that I think with the report out that I hope that'll be further clarified for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Councilor Milo.
Thank you.
Councilor Milo.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to take items out of order. If we can go to page 23. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Milo asked that we go page 23, petitions, top of the page.
Communication from PUD Councilor at Large Tom Gould, and Executive Director of the Citizens Inn, Corey Jackson, to address the Salem City Council regarding the services they provide to Salem residents, and to also provide an overview of the full spectrum of services they offer in the North Shore.
Councilor Milo.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I move that this be received and placed on file.
Councilor Milo moves that this be received and placed on file. Under discussion?
Under discussion, yes. I brought the order in the last meeting, and at that time we expected that Councilor Gould would be able to be with us this evening. However, he has some committee obligations that he was not able to get out of. So he sends his apologies and his thanks for getting this, excuse me, on the agenda. And we also have the Executive Director, Corey Jackson, here to give us information. So I would ask that we suspend the rules to allow Mr. Jackson to speak, and I know that he would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I don't see any objection to suspension. Mr. Jackson.
Okay, thank you very much. As mentioned, I'm Corey Jackson. I'm the Executive Director of Citizens Inn based in Peabody, Mass. I'm here today in hopes of sharing information about our organization, but also how that work dramatically impacts Salem and its residents. We were founded by Mary Jane Lee in 1983. The name may sound familiar, as it is the same Mary Jane Lee that adorns your gorgeous park in the Point neighborhood. She was a close friend, a neighbor, when I was 6 years old and passed away way too young, and I wish she was still here. I think you all do too. She would have been amazing for Salem. The board meetings happened in my living room growing up, and here I am today. So her initial vision plays out very well in supporting basic needs for residents in both Peabody and Salem. And we meet this with our housing programs and our now food programs, as we just recently merged with Haven from Hunger last July. We focus on families experiencing homelessness for a host of reasons, and our work largely centers around reducing and eliminating barriers to stability for those families, from mental health services to income growth to job placement. One thing that sets us apart from other providers is our program at In Transition in Peabody. It's one of 3 programs of its kind in the state of Massachusetts. So many Salem residents do find their way there. These are families where the head of household is on the other side of an intensive detox program and now homeless and in need of support for housing search and to maintain their sobriety. We also provide a small portfolio of affordable housing in Peabody as well. All of these programs serve the entire North Shore and sometimes beyond. The majority of our families come from Salem, Beverly, Peabody, and neighboring communities. As many of you probably already know, we offer the food pantry and community meals program at Citizens Inn Haven from Hunger. If any of you played softball last year, you were supporting that very important mission with Tom Gould and our friends on the Peabody City Council. We are open 4 days a week and see upwards of 100 to 150 families each day, 30 to 60 individuals for a hot meal at night. I was just with the Greater Boston Food Bank last Monday, and we were talking about Salem. And 1,100,000 meals are delivered to Salem families every year. That's 119% of their goal, which is to get 3 meals a day to every food insecure individual in Salem. So that's great. What we do need to work on is access and efficiency of delivery of that food, but you're at your goal in terms of reaching the number of people you need to reach who are food insecure. What I found astonishing was Haven from Hunger, out of that 1 million, is providing 569,000 of those meals. So even though we're based over on Wallace Street in Peabody, a lot of Salem residents are finding their way over to our pantry, and we're grateful to be a part of that. We've also seen the percentage of Salem residents accessing our food pantry grow from 34% of our clientele in 2017 to 49% last month. So that has been just a steady trend for us. We've served 1,581 unduplicated individuals from Salem, Massachusetts. So I'm here today just to spread awareness of the organization, Citizens Inn, its intersections with Salem, but I'm also hopeful that Citizens Inn can be more of a resource to the city of Salem. We know a lot of food, like I said, is getting in. We'd love to help with the access, get mobile markets going in Salem, help with really getting into neighborhoods that aren't well served currently, and maybe some of the neighborhoods that these people are coming over to Wallace Street, but maybe we could get more food and more efficient delivery of that food to those residents. We also would like to educate more people on what Citizens Citizens Inn as a whole is providing to our community of Salem. So if you can think of others who would benefit from a conversation with us, I did leave my business card and our brochure there, and we'd love to meet more Salem individuals, businesses, people who are in need of services. Definitely send them our way. And that's really all I wanted to talk about. We're in the midst of renovations right now at Haven from Hunger. Our programming is going to remain the same. We're going to add on culinary arts training for older individuals who are accessing our programs currently but need a boost to their income. We have a lot of restaurant partners because of the nature of our food rescue operation, and they are very eager to be part of the training team and employ these clients, and that will definitely include a lot of the clients from Salem. We're also working on a business incubator and shared commercial kitchen on our second floor. So there's a lot of exciting future opportunity at Haven, and I hope to include the Salem community very aggressively in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Councilor Milo?
Thank you, Madam President. I just have a quick question.
Councilor Milo.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So my question is, with restaurant partners,
Yeah.
do you have many Salem restaurant partners?
No. to
Okay,
be
so
honest.
that's a way that we
A
can.
lot of our support is coming from Peabody, and I think that's because these numbers that I just shared with you are shrouded
Nobody
in
knows them.
secrecy.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason I'm here today, get that out there and hopefully, let Salem know this support is happening over here. Can we be introduced to more Salem restaurants that can help out, more Market Basket, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, all those Stop and Shop, they're all very big part of our rescue efforts. We rescue almost $1 million worth of food annually from the landfill, so.
Yeah, so I feel like we could probably do more to support our people in your community.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, and part of our future vision and strategy is not just for the Salem residents to have to come over to Wallace, but to come into Salem and try to, with our truck, provide some mobile market, maybe some home delivery. Really, with a lot of seniors too, so in that number, there's a lot of senior citizens. Yeah.
Oh, Councilor Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to commend you guys for what you're doing. I think this is a great initiative that is in very need on this day. But I want to ask you, are you partnered up with any other organization, churches or local organization that they wanted to help you, they be able to reach out to you?
Yeah, so almost every night there is a local church or temple or organization that is coming to serve dinner. So we have a lot of partners that make that happen. Also, local businesses or churches are often involved in staffing our pantry during the day. We have every month about 4,000 volunteer hours at Haven from Hunger logged. So it's quite a few people that are helping.
Yeah, and a follow-up question, you mentioned it, but I don't really hear too well. How did you get funding? I mean, how did you get your fund? Where they coming from? And it is a effort that anybody can pitch in, or
yeah. So our housing work largely is funded by state contract.
Okay.
Our food work is largely funded by the public. It takes about $450,000 annually to run all the programs at Haven from Hunger. So we rely on businesses, foundations, individuals to support that mission. And especially with the capital needs going on around our new kitchens and sort of that workforce development work, we need some pretty aggressive fundraising, and we're working on that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. If I can just ask you, is there a phone number contact for, like, if we know of any families who are on teetering on homelessness, or anybody with food and
I think
food
it's on the
security issues?
brochure, but it's
Is it?
It's
That's what I was-
978.
Oh, here it is,
Yeah.
978-531-9775?
That's correct.
Okay, great.
Yep. And our website is citizensinn.org. You can reach out there as well. And there's all sorts of information about all the programs.
Great. Thank you. Any other councilors? Councilor Dibble.
Thank you, Madam President.
I commend you for your service, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Just curious, you mentioned the need for volunteering, but it stopped short in your conversation. Are you in need of additional adult volunteers to come into your facility and to assist? Typically, the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, National Honor Society, and others are always looking for ideas. They often do food drives where they collect. Unfortunately, you'd have like one of this and one of that and one of that, but I look at your photographs in your pamphlet, which is a really nice pamphlet, and you're more like a supermarket where you have dozens and dozens of all the same.
Yeah,
how do
we
you-
try to take the stigma away from the pantry model and really be a choice pantry. You come in, it's a very similar experience to going to a market. There's still limited choice because we only have so much supply. But yeah, we always need volunteer groups and scout groups and boys and girls. You know, all that stuff is important to be able to collect all the food that we need to stock the pantry. We get about $1 million worth of food annually from the Greater Boston Food Bank. Our truck goes into Boston almost every day of the week and picks up and brings back 5,000 pounds a day. But the rest of the food, which is a whole nother million and change, comes from the public and those restaurants and stores that I talked about. So it's super important that people are doing food drives and bringing that food to our front door or having us come and pick it up.
So through the president to you, you'll see me there volunteering, so thank you. I like the
Awesome.
story, and I'm amazed at how much assistance you give to the city of Salem, so thank you again. So it's yes to volunteers, but it's no to the miscellaneous food drive, is that right?
No, yes to all.
Yes to everyone?
Yes to all. Yeah, yes to all.
Thank you.
We need all the support we can get.
Thank you. Counselor Milo.
Thank you, Madam President. That begs the question, the food drives or whatever, do you also have hours when you accept donations, when people are there to accept food donations?
Yeah.
And specific
Yep.
lists, maybe
Yep.
online or
Yep,
something?
Citizens Inn has our wish lists posted.
Okay.
We have them for Haven as well as our housing properties. It's kind of a different list based on food or home needs and home goods. But yes, so we have, we're always open. So at 81 Main Street in Peabody, we accept all kinds of donations. At 71, that's our admin office, and we have a donation room in there that a lot of our families access throughout the year when they need something. Diapers is a big thing. Wipes, you know, they're very expensive and very inaccessible to a lot of families. We also have 71 Wallace Street is where you would drop off any food, and that's our Haven from Hunger location. And we're open from about 9 in the morning all the way through to 7 at night, and you can drop by donations anytime.
Monday through Friday?
Monday,
Thursday?
Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. We are actually
Okay.
closed on Wednesday.
All right, thank you.
Hope that will change in the future.
Any other counselors, questions or comments?
I really appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time. Thank you very
And
much.
thank you to Counselor Milo for requesting that we bring this in. So we do have to take a vote on the matter, though. So on Counselor Milo's motion that we receive and file this, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, motion return to the regular. So moved. Fantastic. Thank you, Counselor Turiel. Hearings.
Ordered Comcast to install new underground manhole conduits involved at 23-25 High Street.
And appearing in favor?
Good evening, Dave Llewellyn from Comcast, Woburn, Massachusetts. Would you like me to read the entire petition?
Do you want to give us the salient points?
Okay, so basically, we're going to be placing a 3-by-3 manhole in the street over the existing conduit, and then from that manhole, we're going to be excavating over to the sidewalk and placing a vault and a conduit to 23 and 25 High Street. There was a change requested from the property owner that we adjust that vault at 25 a little bit off to the right for plans for a future driveway, and we can accommodate that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else appearing in favor? Name and address for the record.
James Avea, 25 High Street. Again, through Council Madore, and I also informally talked, I believe, to you, Madam President, and some of the other councils. I apologize for not talking to all the councilors, but I did raise some concerns only because of some situations and some family health situations that have arisen and that we may end up having to do this, and some other extraneous situations with other people in the neighborhood. So it's just Mr. Flewell and then actually Mr. Delgado came out to discuss this with me, and hopefully that essentially, as the plans show, I want to make sure that if it moves over, and actually it'll be more advantageous because I believe the cable actually comes into where the proposed area will be, so it's actually going to be more on the ground. And I've discussed with him and Mr. Delgado what should kind of happen and how it should come through in the cellar, which similar to like a gas line that my mother, when she owned the house, had put in, so that it would minimum impact on the foundation. So other than that, it's pretty much, if anything does happen, I know I can come back to the council and voice my concerns about this, including other state agencies and federal agencies too, which I've already researched. So again, we will talk and we'll make sure that once it's done, everything will be done correctly, and as Comcast always says, they're there for you, so guess what? Let's make sure they're there for you. All right, thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
Anyone else appearing in favor? Anyone appearing opposed? Councilor Madore.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the hearing be closed.
Councilor Madore moves that the hearing be closed. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Councilor Madore.
Move that this be granted.
Councilor Madore moves that this be granted. Any further discussion? No? All right.
Very quickly.
Sure.
I spoke with the petitioner and the property owner who's abutting this petition, so just want to make sure that they got to have a conversation and any further accommodations should be discussed thoroughly, and that this would be a flexible project, and make sure that all parties are comfortable with the final project itself. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Councilor Madore's motion that this be granted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further hearings.
Ordered, National Grid to install conduits on Beaver Street from pole 557-84 to the private property at 7092 Boston Street.
Sabita. Anyone appearing in favor? That will obviously be Sabita.
Sabita Mahabir Shihi, representing National Grid, 44 River Street, Beverly, Mass. This is to accommodate a new driveway going in. So we're moving a pole, and we're putting in service for the new building at 70 Boston Street.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor? Anyone opposed? Councillor Flynn?
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the hearing be closed.
Councillor Flynn moves the hearing be closed. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Councillor Flynn?
I also move that it be granted.
Councillor Flynn moves that this be granted. Any other further discussion? Seeing none, on Councillor Flynn's motion that this be granted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further hearings.
Ordered, National Grid and Verizon to relocate one jointly owned pole on Beaver Street.
Sabita? In favor?
Sabita Mahabir Shihi, representing National Grid, 44 River Street, Beverly, Mass. The pole is being relocated because the driveway is going to be going in that location.
Thank you. Anyone else appearing in favor? Was there anybody from Verizon to speak on this? No. Okay, anyone opposed to this? None. Councillor Flynn?
Thank you, Madam President. I also move that the hearing be closed.
Councillor Flynn moves that the hearing be closed. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Councillor Flynn?
I also move it be granted.
Councillor Flynn moves that this be granted. Any other further discussion? Seeing none, on Councillor Flynn's motion that this be granted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appointments and reappointments.
The mayor's appointment of Stravula Memeteus Orfanos to serve as Assistant Building Inspector with a term to expire on September 14th, 2019.
Councillor Sargent.
Will this be held under the... Thank you, Madam President. Will this be held under the rules?
Councillor Sargent moves that this be held under the rules. Further appointments and reappointments.
The mayor's appointments of Stephanie Haggard, 8 Pope Street, Salem, and Ty Hepworth of 9 Brown Street, Salem, to serve as the member of the Beautification Committee with their terms to expire on May 10th, 2021.
Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that this be held under the rules.
Councillor Peterson moves that this be held under the rules. Further appointments and reappointments.
We have a mayor's reappointment of Deborah Amaral, 172 Marlborough Road, Salem, to serve as a member of the Salem Park and Recreation Commission with a term to expire on May 10th, 2023.
Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that this be confirmed by roll call vote.
Councillor Flynn moves for confirmation by roll call vote. Under discussion?
I'd just like to say that I did speak with Ms. Amaral before when she was appointed not long ago, reviewed her resume, talked to her, and she's really dedicated to the city. I think this is a real good appointment that I support. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Councillor Flynn's motion for confirmation by roll call vote, Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councillor Dibble.
Yes.
Councillor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councillor Flynn.
Yes.
Councillor Madore.
Yes.
Councillor McCarthy.
Yes.
Councillor Milo.
Yes.
Councillor Peterson.
Yes.
Councillor Sargent.
Yes.
Councillor Torrio.
Yes.
And Councillor Gerard.
Yes. Thank you very much. On the matter of the mayor's reappointment of Deborah Amaral to the Park and Rec Commission, we have 10 members voting, 1 absent, 10 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
We have the mayor's reappointment of Tim Shea, 21 Buchanan Road, Salem, to serve as a member of the Salem Community Preservation Committee with a term to expire on May 10th, 2020.
Councillor Dibble.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for a confirmation by roll call vote.
Councillor Dibble moves for confirmation by roll call vote. Under discussion.
Yes, very briefly, I've known Mr. Shea for almost 4 decades. I have the highest respect for him. He brings a good level of common sense to this committee, which this committee is charged with properly spending taxpayer dollars, and Mr. Shea does an excellent job, and I highly recommend him.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Councillor Dibble's motion for confirmation by roll call vote, Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councillor Dibble.
Yes.
Councillor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councillor Flynn.
Yes.
Councillor Madore.
Yes.
Councillor McCarthy.
Yes.
Councillor Milo.
Yes.
Councillor Peterson.
Yes.
Councillor Sargent.
Yes.
Councillor Torrio.
Yes.
And Councillor Gerard.
Yes. They're trying to keep up with every time we call it. It's kind of funny. On the matter of the mayor's reappointment of Tim Shea to the Community Preservation Commission, we have 10 members voting, 1 absent, 10 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
We have a mayor's reappointment of Ayanna Lilly to serve as a member of the Salem Youth Commission with a term to expire on May 10th, 2021.
Chair recognizes Councilor Gerard.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for confirmation by roll call vote.
Under discussion.
Briefly, I just want to say thank you so much to Ms. Lilly for continuing to serve on the Salem Youth Commission. I know she loves it, and they're really happy that she's there.
Very good. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councillor Dibble.
Yes.
Councillor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councillor Flynn.
Yes.
Councillor Madore.
Yes.
Councillor McCarthy.
Yes.
Councillor Milo.
Yes.
Councillor Peterson.
Yes.
Councillor Sargent.
Yes.
Councillor Torrio.
Yes.
And Councillor Gerard.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. On the matter of the reappointment of Ayanna Lilly, 10 councilors voting, 10 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. The matter carries. Thought it was going to be rusty.
Further appointments and reappointments.
The mayor's reappointment of Valentina Mendez to serve as a member of the Salem Youth Commission with a term to expire on May 10th, 2019.
Councillor Dibble.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for confirmation by roll call vote.
Councillor Dibble moves for confirmation by roll call vote. Under discussion.
Yes, very briefly, I think the Salem Youth Commission does wonderful things for our city. Kind of, not only do they do things, but we're also kind of developing our future leaders for the city. And I'm sure Ms. Mendez, who I've met a couple times, will continue to do an excellent job for the city of Salem.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Councillor Dibble's motion for confirmation by roll call vote, Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councillor Dibble.
Yes.
Councillor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councillor Flynn.
Yes.
Councillor Madore.
Yes.
Councillor McCarthy.
Yes.
Councillor Milo.
Yes.
Councillor Peterson.
Yes.
Councilor Sargent?
Yes.
Councilor Torres?
Yes.
And Councilor Gerard?
Yes. Thank you. On the matter of the mayor's reappointment of Valentina Mendez to serve on the Salem Youth Commission, we have 10 councilors voting, one that is absent, 10 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
We have the mayor's reappointment of Nicholas Barad to serve as a constable with a term to expire on February 21st, 2020.
Council McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that it be received and placed on file.
Council McCarthy moves that this be received and placed on file. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
We have the mayor's reappointment of Michael Doby to serve as a constable with a term to expire on February 21st, 2020.
Council McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that it be received and placed on file.
Council McCarthy moves that this be received and placed on file. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
We have the mayor's reappointment of Dana Hagan to serve as a constable with a term to expire January 25th, 2021.
Council McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that it be received and placed on file.
Council McCarthy moves that this be received and placed on file. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Communications from the mayor.
We have an order for an appropriation of $20,000 from the fund balance reserved for appropriation free cash account to the mayor contracted services account for the purpose of conducting an assessment center to hire a new fire chief.
And let the record reflect that Councilor Flynn has recused himself. Councilor Terrio.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for suspension of the rules.
Councilor Terrio moves for suspension of the rules.
Opposed.
Opposed or
Objected.
objected? Okay.
Just suspending the rules so it automatically goes to committee.
So, thank you. Okay, so this will go to...
We'll go to Administration Finance, and we will simply wait to pay the assessment center.
Okay. Do you want this co-posted?
If anybody cares and wants to be, certainly.
Please.
Co-posted. Okay. So on Councilor Terriell's motion that this be referred to the Committee on Administration and Finance, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further communications from the mayor.
We have an order for appropriation of $17,677.93 from the Retirement Stabilization Fund Vacation Sick Leave Buyback Account to be expended for the fiscal year 18 contractual buyback for Kathleen Canny from the School Department.
Councilor Terriell.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for suspension of the rules.
Councilor Terriell moves for suspension of the rules. Seeing no objection, Councilor Terriell.
Thank you, Madam President. I also move for adoption.
Councilor Terriell moves for adoption. Under discussion.
Briefly, Madam President, this is a routine retirement buyback. Again, it's this is a longtime employee, and we wish her the best.
Thank you. Seeing any further discussion on Councilor Terriell's motion for adoption, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further communications from the mayor.
We have an order for appropriation in the amount of $6,006 from the Police Contracted Services account to Police Part-Time Salary account.
Councilor Terriell.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for suspension of the rules.
Councilor Terriell moves for suspension of the rules. Seeing no objection, Councilor Terriell.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for adoption.
Councilor Terriell moves for adoption. Under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. This is money that had been allocated previously for contracted services at the police department that is not being used. Instead, this is going into the part-time salary for the outreach worker who's working with our homeless population and some of our, our problems out there, and been doing a terrific job. And this is to move, instead of using her as a contracted service provider, she's been a part-time employee.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Councilor Terriell's motion for adoption, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further communications from the mayor.
We have an order that a room in the Mayor Jean Levesque Community Life Center be named in honor and memory of Irene A. Willie, whose generous bequest to the city of Salem enabled the furnishings of the new Community Life Center.
Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for adoption.
Councilor Flynn moves for adoption. Under discussion?
No.
Under discussion?
No discussion.
No discussion. Seeing no further discussion on Councilor Flynn's motion that this be adopted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Mayor's informational page, none. Motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President. City of Salem and City Council, May 10th, 2018, ordered that the regular meetings of the City Council for the months of July and August be combined and held on Thursday, July 19th, 2018.
Move for adoption.
I move for adoption.
Counselor Peterson moves for adoption. Under discussion? No. No discussion. Okay. On Counselor Peterson's motion that this be adopted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further motions, orders, and resolutions. Counselor Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. City of Salem, the City Council ordered that on May 10, 2018, that the Committee on Public Health, Safe and Environment, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, meets to discuss the problem of restaurant and bars customers smoking on public sidewalk around those establishments, and that the city solicitor, health agents, and the director of the Chamber of Commerce be invited. And I move for adoption.
Counselor Dominguez moves for adoption. Under discussion?
Just briefly, you just hear Ms. Diana, I forgot her last name, speaking about the environment and speaking how that issue is impacting the residents of Salem. I think that we should at least have a conversation to see if we can come with some answer so we can alleviate the residents in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Counselor Devil.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in support of the good at-large councilor's order. Not sure what the solution is, though, how we can enforce such a thing, but I think that we need to do something. I know we have a Ward 7 neighbor of mine sitting here. He and I, last year, picked up hundreds, maybe 1,000 cigarette butts in one specific area, actually 2 areas along the bike path. But I know that when I walk here frequently, the restaurant out back here, there's cigarette butts, hundreds and hundreds of cigarette butts at that one restaurant. And if you go another 20 feet, there's no cigarette butts, or maybe 1 cigarette butt. So it's really a collection of patrons and employees coming outside, and we need more cigarette butt containers or to prohibit these butts. But I'd like to commend the at-large council for getting the ball started. It's much needed. I don't know what the answer is, but hopefully we find a good answer. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Counselor Dominguez's motion that this be adopted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further motions, orders, and resolutions. Counselor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. City of Salem and City Council on May 10, 2018 ordered that the corner of Hawthorne Boulevard and Derby Street be designated as Ryan Square in the memory of U.S. Army Air Corps Staff Sergeant John Jack Ryan.
Move for adoption.
Move for adoption.
Counselor McCarthy moves for adoption. Under discussion?
Under discussion. Thank you, Madam President. This naming of this square comes with the full endorsement of the Salem Veterans Council, as seen in the letter. I always get choked up when I read these things about young lives going off over to serve in the war, especially when you're talking about the World War II, and that whole generation is coming to the point where those people that served us so admirably, that went in there as young, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, are now to the point where that whole generation is dwindling, and it's sad because the way they served us, and I think this is just a small way to recognize Mr. Ryan and his family and his service and his ultimately giving his life on behalf of his country. And I think it's a small thing that we do, but I think it's an important thing we do, and I wholeheartedly support the naming of the square.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Councilor McCarthy's motion that this be adopted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries.
Excellent.
Committee reports. Councilor McCarthy.
1 second, Madam President, sorry.
Sure.
Thank you. City of Salem City Council, May 10, 2018, the Committee on Ordinance and License Legal Affairs to whom it was referred the matter of granting certain licenses, has considered said matter and recommend approval. Tag day, Salem High School boys soccer, Salem Witches youth softball.
On acceptance of the report, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. On adoption of the recommendation, under discussion?
No discussion, Madam President.
Seeing no discussion, on Councilor McCarthy's the OLA committee recommendation, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further committee reports. Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. City of Salem City Council, May 10, 2018. The Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, to whom was referred the matter of discussing temporary signs for street sweeping and other events, has considered submitted and recommend that the matter remain in committee.
On acceptance of the report, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Council McCarthy, on adoption of the recommendation?
Under discussion?
Under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. We had the city engineer slash director of DPS, Mr. Knowlton, in, along with his foreman, Mr. Joden, come in this evening and talk to the committee briefly about street sweeping signage. The License Order Legal Affairs Committee gets, sometimes we get requests for reimbursement for tows, and we had a discussion with them relative to the proper posting, timing of the posting, to make sure that the streets are posted properly, and that if we do come to the point where we need to tow, that we don't want to tow anymore. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, but unfortunately, there become certain instances where the streets are posted, hopefully properly, that some individuals are going to get towed because they ignored the signs or didn't see the sign, or whatever reason they didn't see it, which is unfortunate. But there's certain times that we have to, snow removal, street sweeping, there's certain times that things get posted, and it happens. But we want to make sure if it does happen, it happens in such a manner that people or individuals that were towed aren't going to come back to the city looking for their money back because they feel like it was improper. So we talked to them about what we could do about improving the signage, finding different ways to attach the signage to poles so they can't be removed easily, because most they attach them now with tape. I mean, back in the day, they used to use staples, but then they would staple them to trees, and then people complained that we were putting staples or nails into trees, and so then it revolved to tape with the way of looking at maybe possibly zip ties, something to make it, they're temporary, but also a little more permanent, so someone just can't reach over and just easily pull it down. But it's for, I mean, the ultimately is, I mean, we want to, A, keep our city clean, and B, keep our city safe with regards to different events that we run, and we don't try to sign streets that we sign streets for a need, and it's a need to either to clean them or to remove snow or to public safety, and in doing so, in some instances, some people will get towed. But we wanted reassurances from them on how they were going to do it, and make sure that towing's the last resort, and it only comes with if the police department agrees that it's been posted properly, and therefore that it can be towed. And it's a last resort. We don't want to tow people. We want to try to get as much information out there that was brought up during the meeting as how we can better get information out there. We do a lot with the signboards. I would encourage anybody at home to go to the city's website, sign up for the code red alerts. They come to your cell phone. It's a simple, it takes a few minutes, and you will get every alert that the city puts out relative to street sweeping, snow removals, events, and it comes right to your phone. I would encourage anyone to go onto the city's website and sign up for it. And for those people who are more involved, you can go onto the city's website and sign up. You can get the agendas for every board or commission, or just the ones you're interested in. You can click on the ones you want, and they will email you that information as well. So the information sometimes is out there, but it's more of how we make sure that people are aware of it and how we get the information to them. We tried to do it in such a way that everyone is notified, but a lot of it too is common sense. I hate to say it, if you come home and all of a sudden there's no one parked on your street, that usually has a lot of people parked out, it usually means something's going on. So I'd be looking for that orange sign. If someone someone has walked by and pulled it down, but the rest of the street is signed, you would assume that they signed it properly, and someone has made an attempt to make it so. Unfortunately, you may get towed if you decide to risk it. So, but we had them in. It was a nice discussion. We keep it in committee just in case there's something comes up. But we just want to make sure that the committee doesn't deal with. Last year, they dealt with a lot of tows, in some cases reimbursements for tows, and we just want to make sure that we limit that, and we're only towing for the reasons that we need to. So.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Council McCarthy's, or on adoption of the recommendation, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further committee reports. Councilor Dibble.
Thank you, Madam President. City of Salem and City Council, May 10th, 2018. the Committee on Community and Economic Development, to whom was referred the matter of discussing how to correct the many issues surrounding the overhead wires, abandoned cables, and double poles throughout Salem, has considered said matter and would recommend that the matter remain in committee and revisit it in 3 months.
Thank you. On acceptance of the report, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. On adoption of the recommendation, under discussion.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Very briefly, we had an excellent meeting earlier this week, on Monday, I think it was, with Verizon, Comcast, National Grid, our city electrician, a few members from the public. It was an excellent meeting. Rather than come through with some sort of ordinance or use the fine mechanisms that we have in place, which often gets problematic because it's really a state rules that they follow rather than the local government. Just having a meeting like that, I think, is going to be very advantageous for the city to make progress on this whole front. We had Verizon shared a listing, which typically these utility companies kind of hide everything, but the meeting was very upfront. Verizon shared every single double pole location in the city of Salem. That's when we have an old pole next to a new pole, and we're waiting for each of the utilities to slowly transfer their wires from the old to the new. There might be fire alarm, there might be telephone, there might be cable TV, electric goes first, and street signs, stop signs, other things might be on the pole, as well as a firebox. So it takes a long time to transfer these, but it clearly takes way too long. So the utilities have agreed, not necessarily the electric company, because they go first. Usually they set the pole and they transfer the wires pretty fast. Usually it's a problem with the other utilities. They've agreed that they're going to speed up the process. The other issue is a recent phenomenon with abandoned overhead cables. So if a given homeowner switches their internet service or their telephone or their cable TV from one vendor to another vendor, the old vendor would leave the cable there, or sometimes they might coil it up and attach it to the upper part of the pole. It falls down, somebody might string it up and attach it to the lower pole. And I think they were waiting for perhaps the homeowner to switch back to their service so they can just run the wire back again. But both Verizon and Comcast agreed that they no longer loop these extra cables. They both take them down, and they're going to get the word to, actually it's Comcast, it's going to get the word to their subcontractors. Verizon says that they do not subcontract out. So we think it's the subcontractors doing this work and doing it kind of poorly. Sometimes the cable is too low to the ground. For the ward councilors in particular, this double pole list that I shared with, actually I shared with all the councilors, but I think it's important for the ward councilors to know the status of their double poles. That came from Verizon. It's actually former Mayor Stan Yusevich works for Verizon, and he shared that information with my committee, which I was very happy to get, because historically we couldn't get this information. It was like secret, you know? So we're making progress, and we're going to revisit in 3 months. Should anybody have a problem with any of these issues on utilities, overhead wires, abandoned cables, double poles, etc., simply contact our city electrician. I learned that he shares the same database as the 3 utilities that I just mentioned, so he can enter information and get things corrected a lot faster than we can by calling each of the utilities separately. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you for bringing that in. Any further discussion? Seeing none, on adoption of the recommendation, all those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Councilor Sargent. No.
Sure.
You call me, and then I read the committee report.
Oh, Council Drout, I'm sorry, I thought the city clerk read it.
Thank you, Mr. President. City of Salem and City Council, May 10th, 2018, the ad hoc search committee to whom was referred the matter of filling the vacancy of the city clerk has considered said matter and would recommend remain in committee, and we went to executive session.
Council Drout. On accepting the report, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. On adoption of the recommendation, under discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. We, as members of the public had mentioned, we had a fantastic discussion last night. We started out in open session and we went over some of the criteria that we'll be using, particularly how we're going to be using the job description as baseline criteria, and then answered some of the members of the public, some of their questions about the process, and then afterwards we went into executive session, which I can't discuss.
Any further discussion? Councilor Torrio.
Thank you, Mr. President. One thing from this that the original, the committee was created with the expectation that this process would be complete before the next city council meeting in 2 weeks. We have identified candidates to interview and plan to be doing that. It's taking, between everything, it's about approximately a week. So we would expect for the committee to have a report back with finalists, not at the next meeting, not next city council meeting, but likely at the committee, at the first June meeting right afterwards. So 2 weeks, approximately 2 weeks later.
Thank you, Councilor Torrio. Councilor Gerard.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to my colleague. Since we're going to start doing interviews next week, and then with waiting on references and everything, so I think, I don't think I can do an order now, but I think I may need to bring in an order or one of the committee members can bring in an order at the next meeting that we just extend the deadline with the recommendation to the June 14th meeting.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Council McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would agree with that only because when we kind of laid the groundwork for this and set the timeline, it was a very aggressive timeline, but at the same time we couldn't start the ball rolling until until the OLA committee reported out to the city council, which delayed us from starting almost a week and a half, 2 weeks. So we kind of lost it at the start. So we kind of needed in the tail end. And I mean, we had a conversation with the Human Resources Director too. So I mean, something that we as a body hadn't really thought about was once you get towards the finish line on this whole thing, you want to check people's references. And that's something we don't even think about in the time that it takes to actually do that, do your due diligence on that. So I think that the request isn't outside the scope of, I think we're still going to try to move with the timeline, but I think we just need a little more time in order to do it right. So I would wholeheartedly agree with everything that's been said. I think that the proper way to do that would be bringing an order at the next meeting asking for the extension, because it just the way things are rolling. I mean, we're trying to do them correctly, and I want to thank the people who came last night. I think that we had some great discussions about what we're going, what should be done, and maybe even potentially a couple of questions that they thought were important. I think that that's important too, but I don't think there's not enough days that you can make everyone available and get the candidates in for interviews. It's not going to work. So I think that we just need that time.
Thank you, Council McCarthy. Further discussion, Council Dominguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to, say, being a rookie and being on the ad hoc committee, to me, that was a great experience. And I wanted to reassure to the public that we start a process very transparent, and the confidence need to be put into the body that is working on this process. I think that we was elected to do a job, and I think that as the point, everything that I see, we are committed to do it, and we wanted to reassure the public in general that we will continue that way, so we continue to deliver especially what the people of Salem need on this important issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dominguez. Further discussion, Councilor Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to hear the good at-large councilor's comments just now. I was here before the meeting started last night, just to sit as an observer and witness it, and to hear how it moved along, to make sure that was in an open and transparent manner. But I was informed that I was the sixth counselor, and that would have put us into a quorum problem. So I wound up leaving that night. So I'm glad that a good meeting was held last night, and I thank those counselors that are part of that committee. Because my friend, the Ward 5 counselor, has stepped down from my committee in order to continue serving on the ad hoc city clerk's search committee, it leaves my committee on community and economic development short. I've never seen this before like this, where an acting counselor who's still breathing with us has stepped down from a committee. So I've asked the president, my committee is fairly busy. We had one meeting this week, but we have other matters that are before us now, and I'd like to have I asked the president to fill that spot, and I suggested perhaps from putting the good Ward 5 counselor into government services maybe, and taking one of those members, which is a less active committee, one of those members into my committee. But I'm going to ask again publicly for the president to fill my spot on the committee immediately, so I can bring that person up to speed with what we've been doing, and we can continue to meet, because right now I'm uncomfortable meeting without a full committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Dibble. Any further discussion? Councilor Torrio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will point out that there are some things in the community and economic development pipeline at the moment. We met on Monday with 4 councilors present that particular evening. And of course, ever since everything's co-posted, everybody, including I, can still go there and participate in those meetings. I just can't vote as long as I'm not a member of the committee. But I will say that should this not be done, should there not be a change made accordingly, once this ad hoc committee has finished its work within the next couple of weeks, there is several weeks, there is nothing preventing the president from reappointing me to that committee. So I had to step, in order to deal with what were some fairly sticky legal issues having to do with quorums and the balance of councilors on the subcommittees, I came up with that as a solution to the issue that met legal muster. And, I like serving on that committee and have generally done so, but I'm pretty comfortable that regardless of whether there's an appointment made or however, I'm pretty sure that the committee will be able to carry on one way or another. And should there be a bunch of stuff coming up soon, then by the time it does, I don't think there'll be any problem with me being reappointed, should that opening still be there.
Thank you, Councilor Torrio. Any further discussion? Being none, on adoption of the recommendation, all those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it, the matter carries. God bless.
Communications from city officials.
We have a communication from Thomas St. Pierre, Building Commissioner, Zoning Officer, relative to a zoning change request for swimming pools, Section 3.2.5, full letter below.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that it be received and placed on file.
Councilor McCarthy moves that this be received and placed on file. Under discussion?
No, all the members of the council got a letter from Mr. St. Pierre relative to the issue with the swimming pools. I don't think I need to read the letter. I think we all have it, so it's just a matter of bringing it in front of us, so I move to receive it and file.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Councilor McCarthy's motion that this be received and filed, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further communications from city officials.
We have a communication from the planning board submitting the recommendation relative to a proposed zoning for Section 3.2.5 swimming pools. See full recommendation and draft minutes below.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that this communication be received and placed on file.
Councilor McCarthy moves that this be received and placed on file. Under discussion?
On discussion, as this matter of swimming pools came up during the public hearing with regards to some of the, I won't even use the word, some of the public hearing on zoning. I try not to use the word Scribner's errors because people don't like it when that word's being used lately. But Mr. St. Pierre brought it to everyone's attention that somehow during codification, the idea of a fence around a swimming pool was inadvertently omitted, or wasn't included, or somehow got passed back. So as was seen by the letter that Mr. St. Pierre submitted, he's in favor of bringing it in. Even though it's, as you can see by the report to the City Council, the Planning Board has some issues with the wording with regarding the fencing. So at this point, I'll entertain any ideas on how the body wants to deal with it. But let's be 100% honest. If someone has a swimming pool in their backyard, I don't think they should be looking to fight the city on with the need for a fence around it. Just for anybody's ability to walk through somebody's backyard without having to go through a gate that's got a mechanism that keeps it closed, or to hop over a fence. I mean, the last thing I want to see is anybody having a tragedy in someone's pool because they inadvertently walked through someone's yard because there wasn't a fence and fell into a pool. All that being said, I don't, I believe that the language needs to be put back in. It definitely needs to be put back in, and if I understand, I read through the planning board decision. I understand with some of their questions, but at this point, it's a question of whether or not you want to put the language back in and then revisit it, or refer it to committee and try to tweak the language to a way that will work before we bring it up for a vote. And at this point, I will yield the floor and hear what other people have to say on the matter.
Okay, so should we receive and place this on file, and then where the next agenda item deals directly with that, then we'll have deliberations there? How's that? Is that good with everyone?
Yep.
Fantastic. Okay, so on Council McCarthy's motion that this be received and placed on file, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further communications from city officials. Do you want to?
I can just be brief. Okay. So, an ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to zoning regarding section 3.2.5 swimming pools.
Council McCarthy?
Waive.
Or do we
Waive
want the reading? No?
No,
Waive
waive
it?
the reading.
Okay. Council McCarthy?
Thank you, Madam President. This is where we decide whether we're going to uphold or deny, or what we're going to do with it. As I just stated, I mean, the planning board has some issues with the language. The building inspector feels there's a profound need to have the language inserted. I'm not sure whether or not we want to take a vote on it tonight, or whether or not we want to refer it to committee and try to maybe tweak the language that makes it a little more acceptable to people, but I will leave that open before I ask for a move for adoption.
Thank you. Councilor Terrio?
Thank you, Madam President. I know with these matters before us, we have the planning director here in the chamber, so I would ask if if we could waive the rules to suspend the rules to allow Mr. Daniel to address us on this and kind of go over some of what the planning board was thinking and how and why, and so we can kind of determine how to dispose of this appropriately.
Seeing no objection, Tom? It's funny not to say Tom and Tom.
Yeah, I know. I'm missing my partner tonight.
Your other Tom is coming.
Madam President, members of the council. So I was not actually present at the planning board's deliberation at that meeting. However, I did speak with Ashley Green, who staffed the meeting, in addition to reading the minutes that were distributed as well, and then subsequently spoke with Tom St. Pierre as well. And I think what, to summarize the part of the planning board discussion is, some members didn't like the language that had existed and saw a conflict between what the building code requires and what our ordinance required. And they didn't have the benefit of Tom St. Pierre saying, yes, the city had wanted something more restrictive than what the state requirement had. There was also, the planning board erred in their code references. They weren't referring to the most up-to-date code. So, in discussing it with Tom St. Pierre, he just reiterated again, I guess in his communication, the desire the importance of having a regulation in there. And I think, as Councilor McCarthy laid out, I think one option is to adopt the language that had existed and then start a process to revise it. Alternatively, referring to committee and look at how the language could be crafted within this public noticing process. And if there's an opportunity to make some revisions in that, I think it would benefit by having, regardless of what process is undertaken, it would benefit by having the building inspector part of that conversation to ensure that the language meets the needs that he sees there.
Thank you. Any questions from councilors? Councilor Dibble?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I have a couple questions, but a point of clarification. On here, it says, Madam President, uphold the denial. What denial is this?
Okay, so I think, and Madam and City Clerk can clarify this. So Upholding the denial means that we are supporting the planning board's decision of the 8 votes to oppose the change in the language, correct?
That's correct.
That sounds right, right?
Right, but there's no denial from the planning board. It's just a recommendation.
It's it's 8 people oppose changing the language, so we uphold their denial, or we approve adding back in the language per the building inspector's recommendation, and we need, so 2/3 of us need to, so I think it would have to be 7 of 10 of us? It's still 8?
Yeah.
Even, okay.
Still
Okay,
eight.
so 8 of us still need to approve that.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. Just the wording of here, I've never seen
Yeah.
that before like that.
I just processed that myself, if that wasn't obvious.
I'm in support of making very strict and reasonable changes so we protect not just our young people, but everybody who might accidentally drown in a pool. And I thank the building inspector for bringing this forward. I have an issue with the wording in here, and when we remanded it to the planning board for their recommendation, I hoped that they would come back with a recommendation, but they didn't. I was hoping that they would give us craft some wording that would be something that we could adopt. And then the same with the building inspector. He says that we need to make changes, but he doesn't make a specific recommendation of what it should be. So I'd like to see this. I don't recommend that we pass this thing tonight because I'm not in agreement at all with the wording in here. If we do go for a vote, unfortunately, I'm going to have to vote against this. And I suffered through with my wife of my sister-in-law drowning. So I'm very ultra-sensitive to this matter. But the wording on here is just not right at all. And the wording of it is from decades ago. It doesn't make a lot of sense for Salem today. Maybe it did back then, I don't know. I don't think it made sense back then either. So I think we need to craft the wording correct as what the building inspector, who deals with this all the time, what he really wants. And maybe we can remand this back to the building inspector and the planning board for their joint recommendation. But at the same time, put this in committee, wait for the wording to come back from planning board and from our building inspector, and then if it makes sense, we remand it back to this council, we adopt some changes to keep our children safe. But the way this is worded, I can't support this. But I do want to make a positive change to the wording. We just need to change the wording on here, because this doesn't work for most anybody who has a pool or wants a pool.
So when you say you vote against it, so are you saying that you are voting against and I hate to say it like this, are you voting against the building inspector, or are you voting against the building inspector recommendation or the planning board recommendation?
Neither one offered a recommendation.
Okay, so
there's no
I'm still trying to figure out how to word what we're going to vote on
My motion
here.
is to put it into committee.
Put it to
Get
committee.
a recommendation, specific wording from the planning board and from the building inspector as to what they feel we should enact.
Which committee?
I would imagine it has to go to Ola because it's an ordinance.
Okay,
Second that.
And
Second
co-post it, please.
co-posted. Okay,
Thank you, Madam President.
you're welcome. Thank you for clarifying. Councilor Terrio.
Thank you, Madam President. I would add to that we should make sure that the building inspector and planning board are invited to this meeting. And if it is possible for us legally to hash out the language within within kind of the four corners of what we can do on a zoning amendment, if we can change the language appropriately within that box without having to start the process all over, then we would try and do so. And if we have to ultimately let it expire in committee so we can restart the process, then that would be the case. Because if we deny it, then we're down for, if I recall, it's 2 years before we can try it again. So I'd rather not get to the point of having to shoot this down. I'd rather try and work this out the right way or let it just quietly expire so we can start over with with the language all worked out appropriately.
So, okay, and this may be, and I see you shaking your head, I think on the second part of what Councilor Terrio was saying. I think that's why you're shaking your head. Is that correct?
It wouldn't be 2 years if you're,
right.
If you're acting on the planning board's recommendation of denying it.
It wouldn't be?
Not for 2 years. If you, it's, the city council shall consider if it's 2 years, one more time, unless the adoption of such proposed ordinance is recommended in the final report of the planning board. So what I am saying is if you agree with the planning board to deny it and not pass any language, in my opinion, that it doesn't have to wait the 2 years because you are voting what the planning board recommended.
Okay.
But you have the option of referring it to committee, or if you can tonight amend it within the four corners, you could do that on the floor, but if you want to refer it, you certainly can.
So, and just to be
Or you
clear,
can
where,
reject the planning boards.
I'm so sorry. Where are we in the zoning clock?
We have still
'Cause
to
this
July
originally came-
8th to pass it for two
Okay, so July,
passages.
that should give
That'd
Ola
be
enough time.
Within the second passage by July 19th is our meeting.
Okay, July 19th? So we could do, conceivably, we would need to, Ola would, if we did agree and send it to Ola, Ola would have no later than the second meeting in June, and then by the July 19th meeting, we have to have decision
It'll be
finalized.
first passage, the end meeting in June. And
First passage,
meeting
July
in
19th?
June, no,
June.
June
Okay,
28th, and then
so-
July 19th.
June 28th, okay. Council McCarthy?
Thank you, Madam President. Being the chair of OLA, who's been just handed this, I agree, but what I'm going to do is going to square the box and talk to the city solicitor. There may be, because it has to fit within the parameters, if we're going to talk about changing some of the language, as long as it fits with the parameters of the posting, that will make it right. If it doesn't fit the postings, then it will become a question of whether or not we just leave it in committee and let it die so that we can restart it, but we'll figure that out. But as I have learned over the years, when it comes to questions like this, before you go jumping into in this case, the pool head first,
Not in the shallow end.
on the shallow end, it's always good common practice to check get a legal opinion about that to make sure that you're gonna fit into the box before you try to go outside of it. So I will talk to the city solicitor, let her have an opinion about what we're thinking about, because we do have the ability to amend the language, but I don't know how far you can go with that. So I'll make that conversation, we'll schedule a meeting, we'll try to get, obviously, Tom St. Pierre and maybe the chair or a member of, I don't think we don't want to get a quorum of the planning board. I don't think they all have to be here. If we can get someone who maybe I'll go through the minutes of their meetings who had some definitive issues with it, invite maybe one or two particular members, and then try to work this out. Or actually reach out to them and get their input in advance. Maybe they have some ideas on the language as well, because I talked to a couple of them, and there was some questions on number of gates, size of gates. It was some weird stuff, so. But I look forward to the committee taking this matter and bringing it back to the full council.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none. So the motion on the floor right now is to send this to Ola, co-post it with the committee of the whole. All right, seconded by Councillor Sargent. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further communications from city officials.
We have a communication from the planning board submitting their recommendation relative to proposed zoning change for section 8.4.9 parking requirement, section 4, subsection A, North River Canal Corridor. Full recommendation and draft minutes below. Recommend approval.
Move the reading. Received and placed on file.
Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that it be received and placed on file.
Councillor McCarthy moves that this be received and placed on file. Under discussion?
No discussion.
Seeing no discussion on Councillor McCarthy's motion that this be received and placed on file, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further communications from the mayor.
We have an ordinance to amend an
I'm
ordinance.
sorry, is this communications from the mayor? Yeah, sorry, it's city officials. I'm sorry, communications from city officials. Sorry.
We have an ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to zoning, subparagraph 4, subsection A of section 8.4.9 parking requirements is hereby amended by deleting 4A in its entirety and replacing it with the following 1.5 parking spaces per dwelling unit.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that this, I don't know where I'm not really, I mean, I understand the need for this, but I personally, I mean, I don't have an issue with the 1.5 spaces, but I wish there was some language in here that basically stated that they should be required to have 2 spaces per dwelling unit, but if they so choose, they can go to 1.5 as long as that half space per dwelling unit is turned into green space. So that they have to factor in the spaces prior to laying out the development, so that they can't use the extra space in order to try to squeeze in another unit or two. I think that if you're looking at it, if you're going to allow some of these developments to move forward, I understand the whole issue or the whole concept of people trending to not having as many cars. I mean, unfortunately, it's not working in my family, and my son wants a car, and that would be another one, and we keep saying no because it doesn't work for us. But every family unit is different. Some of these developments are more geared to millennials who tend to seem to have, as we see in the school department, there's a trending down in enrollment because people aren't having as many children for whatever reasons. So therefore that translates into not as many cars, which doesn't help gridlock at 3 in the afternoon in Salem. But when you look at this, I mean, I don't have an issue with, I mean, it's a very stringent requirement, 2 spots per dwelling unit. But me personally, when I look at that, I think they should develop their plan with 2 units, and then if they just 2 spaces per dwelling unit, but if they so choose, they can lower to 1.5 after they've developed their plan for 2, and then take that space and allocate it towards green space, if that makes sense. But you still require them to plan for 2, but if they so opt to, it's just so that, because if you look, any developer, and no offense to the developers, but any developer is going to look at the ability to take the less space that it takes for all those half a car spaces and try to figure out a way to make a little bigger bump on a building to put in another unit or 2 or 3 or whatever. So I don't agree with that. I look at it as, if the intent is to lower the parking requirement because in everyone's arguments is so you don't end up with a whole bunch of asphalt around a development. If your intent is to have more green space, then leave the factor in there and allow them to do a deduction on the half space as long as they turn the half space per unit into green space, not into another addition to the building. That's just my opinion. But I don't know where anyone's opinion is on this before I make a recommendation for a vote or to refer it to committee, but that's just my opinion.
Nope.
Suspending the rules, because I apologize, I'm waiting to take one.
Hang on, let me talk to councilors first. Councilor Dominguez, then Councilor Madore.
Thank you, Madam President. I think this subject is very, very, very touching. I think that we have so many issues, regarding to developers getting more houses, more developers. But I think that we also have to understand that demographic in our city is changing. I think that what we need to adopt is, based on what community we're talking about. We have communities that are very dense, that I don't think that would be appropriate to. But on the other hand, we have other communities that they get into, to getting less car because they are workable. So I think that we need to adopt something that make feasible for each community in order for us to, be balanced. I think this is the 21st century. We see a lot of communities growing, similar to Salem. What are they doing? Can we adopt something that they're doing? I think that if we wanted to be more as a city to welcome everybody, I think that we need to have options, not only from one, but to others. I'm in agreement with the developers. Sometimes they take advantage of it, but I think that we need to also look on the other side of the coin. We need more housing, we need more green space, we need more playgrounds, but in the other token, we have some other density population that doesn't need more to get any parking out. So if we can come with something that we allow in some area to be a 1.5 parking, and in the other area we can have the 2 or whatever formula we can think about it, I think that would be the appropriate answer for this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Madore.
Thank you, Madam President. I think we can all agree that we do have a housing shortage. We have a affordable housing crisis here in Salem and also throughout the country. This is one of the easiest barriers that we can remove to improve affordable housing production. And we have 10 years of data to show that we don't need that much parking in this corridor or this district specifically, the residents who are living in existing developments are using even less than 1.5 parking spaces. We have the most recent set of census data showing that folks who are renting in Salem, 80% of them own 0 cars or 1 car, as opposed to people who own homes tend to have 1 or more cars. And that says to me that favoring development or zoning that requires more parking, we're saying that you need to be able to afford cars to live in these areas. So we tend to favor people who are more wealthy. And in this district, the NRCC district, it's the most transit accessible district in our city, but it has the highest parking requirement. In downtown, we don't even have parking requirements. So why are we skewing this requirement unnecessarily when we have the data to show that we don't need it, and countrywide data showing that transit-oriented development does not need high parking requirements, because people who choose to live in those areas tend to prefer not own cars. There's a lot of anecdotes that we can hear about how families own more than 1 car, but there's also lots of families in Salem who choose to live here because they don't have to buy that additional car. We have zip cars that we only have 10 zip cars in the city, and I use it very often because I am a single car family and it's not available. It's hard for me to reserve a zip car because it's being used all the time. There's a demand for car sharing, and if data shows that we don't need this much parking in NRCC, and we are still requiring developers to purchase the land to build those parking spaces, they have to pay more for the land. It's expensive to develop housing in the first place. So that added cost is passed on to ultimately the renter or the property owner. And those are the seniors, those are the young professionals, the millennials, the young families. And we wonder why we have a housing crisis, why housing is so expensive in Salem, because those costs, we are inducing those costs to be passed on to housing prices. And respectfully, I disagree with the ward councilor. If we require developers to use that half space of parking, which amounts to about 150 square feet, to turn that into green space, what is that going to do? I don't think it accomplishes much other than adding a few shrubs or landscaping on the development. I would rather save that space for a family or even the homeless who might need that extra unit of housing. We need to be building more space, more homes for people, and not spaces for cars. And a lot of the seniors who want to downsize to areas like downtown or the NRCC, many of them are becoming, unfortunately, single person households because their spouses have passed away. And most of them either have 1 car or they rely on transit. So again, we're passing on this unnecessary cost to seniors who have fixed incomes, who don't need this extra space. And I think this is an easy step for us to improve affordable housing production, market rate housing production, just helping with the really tight housing market, and this is a step we can take. And I do feel that if this cannot be passed tonight, I would like to see it referred to committee, to OLA, so that we can have a more in-depth discussion to address some of the concerns. So I'd be happy to make that motion I would like to make the motion to refer to OLA. Co-posted, yes. And to make sure that that interim traffic and parking director be invited, and the planning director be invited as well.
I second that.
Seconded, okay. Thank you. Okay, Councilor Terrell and then Councilor Dibble.
Thank you, Madam President. This is one where we do have a lot of cars going through Salem. We have a lot of through traffic in Salem because we have people using Salem as a cut through to get to other places. People in Marblehead and Swampscott go through Salem in order to get to work in Beverly and out on 128. people in other towns go to and through Salem because of all the things that happen here, that all the legal profession that's here, the work down Shetland. There's a lot of traffic in the city in general, and it's not just the residents. We have a lot of cars in the city. The number was going up pretty rapidly for a while and now seems to have tapered off and is starting to dip back down a little bit. The demographic trends that my colleague from Ward 2 mentioned are very, very real, that as the city, as we get more people who are both older and younger in the city and fewer of the people who are my age, as that changes, those are generations that are driving fewer cars. And as we are going through developments and as we're going through site plan review, I'll just use an example. Right now, there's a proposal that's before the planning board for a development on Canal Street down at the old California Olive Oil Company, from there through Ocean Ave. That development is being planned for, I believe at the moment, a plan, some modifications have been made to the design and all, but as of last count, it was proposed for 48 units. And those 48 units are being designed roughly a half a mile from the downtown to 1.5 spaces. We just also approved a development across the street at the old candy company on Canal Street. That's also being built to 1.5 spaces as the standard. And that's going as not an issue at all. Whereas all these, the corridor we're talking about in this zoning proposal is the NRCC. And the NRCC, other than the core downtown itself, is our closest district to transit. It's pretty much a straight shot from everything on there along the North River by path, by sidewalk, to the train station. And the people who seem to be moving to that area are generally people who are taking the train, are younger one-car couples, are older families that are empty nesters, and they don't, enough of them don't seem to need 2 or more cars, that the 1.5 car requirement that we have in most of the rest of the city seems very reasonable to put in there. I agree with my colleague from Ward 1 that I would like to see more green space designed into these too. I think that's a very worthy goal, but at the same time, when these projects are designed, everything that's done in the NRCC goes through site plan review. So the planning board at that point does have the chance to put some of those requirements on the developments that are done there. They have a chance to influence the design, to ask for more concessions to green space and snow storage and all those things that are normally handled through the site plan review process. So I'm okay with this going into committee, but I do think this is a direction that we should be moving in. It's, if there's one district in the city that shouldn't be a 2-car requirement district, it's this one.
Thank you. Councilor Dibble?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd have to agree with the good Ward 1 councilor's comments. I think he nailed it on the head, and he said it better than I could ever say it with his discussion about open space and having the requirement for the spaces if they're needed sometime in the future. This whole ordinance change, I think, is a really good idea, and it's the direction that we're taking. But we need to have it clearly needs to go into committee and have a discussion about this. So I'm recommending that we put it into committee. We need to compare the 3,500 square feet per unit for a development versus the number of bedrooms, because that's really what drives how many cars might be coming in. Example is one thing that you as president and I worked on Howard Street Extension 2 years ago, where we had a development of condominiums or apartments, whatever they are. It was a big development with a lot of units, and the developer did not put in enough parking spaces for that development. So the good president here, as the ward councilor, had to put up with the comments from the neighborhood that the cars from the development are now parking in front of their houses and they have no place to park, the traditional neighborhood. And some cars from the development were now squeezing onto a grass area, making muddy areas where it was really a bad design. So it wasn't designed for, as the good Ward 1 councilor mentioned, it wasn't designed for parking in a certain place and turn into green space. It was green space and parking, and it wasn't really a proper design. So that one neighborhood was affected both in the the condominium owners, the new residents, they were negatively impacted with having multiple bedrooms, not just in their unit, but all the units. So they might have not have been in violation, or not in violation, they might not have been affected by the number of cars, but the people next door might have had 4 cars, 2 bedrooms, a couple, each with a car. It's 4 cars. And that was going on in that street. So to find a compromise, we need to put this in committee and have a discussion about this, about what works. But I absolutely love the Ward 1 councilor's comments about requiring the 2 spaces. That will prohibit from the developer from squeezing in additional units into an already congested future development. But it will allow for more landscaping and more green space around it. And if they do have to create more parking spaces in the future because they have many more cars there than they anticipated, then there'll be room for them to put those spaces in properly into the design. And I think that it will help reduce the cost of that development because there'll be less curbing and less pavement and less required storm drainage management. So it'll be a less cost. Even though we're going to have more landscaping, greenscaping is a lot less expensive than hardscaping of pavement and curbing and infrastructure. Okay? So in my opinion, we put this in committee, as the Ward 2 council just suggested, but for a different reason. For a different reason on crafting it in alliance with what the Ward 1 councilor just recommended by having more green space, but allowing for the design of those spaces for possible future use. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Sargent, can you come up here for a second? And then, or do you want to talk now and then?
I can wait if you want to talk.
Okay, I'll talk.
Chair recognizes Council President Gerard.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the North River Canal Corridor Zone, this is largely in my ward, and I want to point out something really important, that I do like the idea of having more green space. I think that's fantastic. I know that that's one of the things that makes North Salem so special, and I know it was Councilor Fury at one point that said to me, you know, people describe North Salem as God's country. And, one of the most important things that I want to point out about that suggestion is that the North River Canal, so because it's on the waterway, all projects are bound, or the majority of the projects that are in the NRCC, they're bound by Chapter 91. So you have to have a significant number of frontage and back from the 100-year flood mark. So this is one of the things that actually there's a project right now on Franklin Street that's in the planning board, that they have a huge swath of green space, and 28 Goodhue had to have some frontage back. But again, going back to what the Good Ward 2 councilor was pointing out, so with 28 Goodhue, we have 1.3 spaces per unit being used. We at Bell Station, we have 0.98 spaces being used, and something that it was actually former Councilor Vino that he pointed out in his comments, that he said, looking at it from the perspective of the planning board, that it made sense to go down to this. So I am in support, I want to be clear about that I am in support of reducing the parking to 1.5. And the other reason why they want this to go to 1.5 is because they're going through, the developers or whoever are going through the ZBA and before the planning board under site plan review to get the variances for the parking reduction. So this is already happening. I'm absolutely fine with this going to committee. I hope that it just comes out favorably, that we lower it to 1.5.
Thank you, Councilor Gerard.
Councilor Sargent.
Thank you, Madam President. I understand we need housing, but I firmly believe that Salem's housing needs should be driven by what Salem people need, not by what the state needs from Salem. I mean, towns like Salem, Beverly, Peabody, and Lynn are doing above and beyond their share of creating more units. It's places like Hamilton, Wenham, Boxford, like that, where they don't make enough for their children to grow up and live in their towns. And they need to start doing some extra things too. They say it's because we're on infrastructure, but I noticed Hamilton and even Rowley now has a train station. But I don't see them building big apartment buildings and dense units for their people and to allow other people to move into town. They seem to be keeping to very large lots, sometimes 2 acres. And we're not like that. But At the same time, we've been building apartments by the hundreds and very few one-family homes. So when we're planning, we can't just be planning buildings, trees, and parking spaces. We're planning families and whether or not families can stay together. We're planning whether or not a son and daughter can build a house in town, and so that us as we get older can visit our grandchildren in Salem and not send our best and brightest up the highway towards New Hampshire because they can't find a one-family house in Salem. The most we built is up off Marlborough Road. And I remember the realtor, when we pushed for those larger lots, for larger houses, they want to bring them down to 5,000 square feet. And one of the best calls I ever got from the realtor was that we kept them to pretty large lots. And she said, every call I've got so far to go look at a house or to sell one of those houses is a Salem family moving up. So that's why you need a full circle of housing. You need to take care of your needy, but you need to take care of your best and brightest and most successful also. So when you have the full circle, somebody moves from Witchcraft Heights up into those bigger houses, from Bridge Street, Boston Street up to Witchcraft Heights, from an apartment to buy a two-family house, from Rainbow Terrace to the apartment. There's something for everybody in town. So we need to help people, but these parking spaces, everything. This North River Canal Corridor Group worked for a year very hard on this. They met a lot of time, and they really put a lot of time into this, and they had a reason for having 2 parking spaces. And if this is for green space, or we're doing this, or is it for more units? Because I hear green space, but I hear more units also. And if every development that's been approved so far has been about twice as much density as allowed by North River Canal Corridor. So if you have 30 units are allowed by right and you build 60, you get 60 more parking spaces. So, if they only gave them a density bonus from 30 to 45, there'd be more open space. So we can do that. So I just firmly believe, especially with the Ferris project, that, as Councilor Dibble alluded to, the minute that project gets done with 1.5 spaces, we might as well make all the surrounding neighborhood residents sticker parking. And if we didn't have parking issues in the city, why is one of the things we talk about all the time is people trying to get residents sticker parking? If it's not because parking's tight, then why would we be doing that? So I'll yield for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Terrell and then Councilor Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. I agree that we need to have a range of housing options for everybody. One thing, though, I'll point out on the NRCC is that from my reading, the original NRCC recommendation was for 1.5 spaces, and then the City Council, when they passed it, added it up to 2, mainly because they didn't know it was going to happen. And now, a decade plus later, we know what happened, and it turned out to be less demand than that with the larger projects that were built. One thing, though, that was the NRCC's committee's recommendation. It was the City Council's addition after the fact that brought it up to that, and that's fine. That's what they did, and it hasn't. We've seen some development there, so that's a good thing. When you're talking about the circle of housing, and I completely agree with my at-large colleague that we need to have housing in all ranges to handle pretty much all audiences. And we need to be able to take care of people, be able to have options for people who come up in Salem, stay in Salem, succeed in Salem, and be able to move. Right now, the part of the issue that we have is the sheer cost of land and the sheer cost of real estate in this city. That's a huge factor in all this. And when you look at what the options are and we look at how a neighborhood's been built, all the large plots of just open land that were available for subdivision, Witchcraft Heights and then Marlborough Road, they've all been built up at this point. And the sheer cost of land now makes it so that if you buy one of the few plots of open land available, you can't afford to build single-family homes on them pretty much anymore. A developer can't buy that land and make their money back building single-family homes anymore. And another thing that we have to deal with in land sales is, especially in the NRCC, that's the area that used to be our industrial center. We have open land there that used to be industrial land. Most of that land has some level or another of remediation that has to take place before it can be used. And that adds yet another cost level to recycling that land. So if we take down an old tannery, we get the pollution out, we get the land cleaned up, we get it ready to build. By the time you're ready to put a foundation in the ground, you've already spent a couple $1 million between cleanup and acquisition, and that's one of the big drivers for the developers who want to build more units. I mean, granted, almost every developer wants to jam as much as they think they can jam into a piece of property. They want to make as much money as possible. I get that. They all want that. They don't generally get it. But they do have the need to build something more dense than otherwise, in most cases, than otherwise they might want to even build, because they have to take up that cost and make it up. So again, we're talking about specifically the NRCC here, where you have a lot of those conditions in place. The land that's available in the NRCC, as much as we could use single-family homes also, that land's not going to hold single-family homes. I wish it did. We have done a fairly good job of building even some smaller single-family homes, like on Planter Street, again, out off Marlborough Road. I have friends who live out there. We've done a lot of that, but we also need to do the developments, and really, we want to take this land wherever possible that's been unusable in a lot of these cases for decades, and we want to do something productive with it. And so, again, these guys, these builders are going before the ZBA now and getting waivers on parking. I would rather, we ultimately, and I think we should probably, since this is obviously going to go to committee tonight, we should do that sooner, get that done sooner than later and move through the rest of the agenda. But I think that in trying to handle this, we have to make sure we keep in mind what the NRCC is, what we have to deal with for land, what we need to do to try and turn it around. And we don't need to build a condo on every square foot of land that's open in this city, but we do need to make sure we are accommodating our needs. We want to try and make land productive, put it on the tax rolls, put people in it, and not just, we've have enough places in Salem that are too old and dirty to let your kids play in.
Thank you. So we have Councilor Dominguez, Councilor Milo, and Councilor McCarthy, and then Councilor Madore.
Thank you, Madam President. I think that the work of High Councilor touched much of the thing that I wanted to say. I just wanted to add that we need to be able to adapt to the new term. And I understand that we need single houses, very important, but not everybody can afford single houses. I'm speaking, on behalf of many, many, many people who wanted to live in Salem, but they cannot afford to live in Salem. And I think that one of the things that the city haven't done it very effective is to be very aggressive on the developers and request and make sure that they commit to help in that regard. The good councilor of Ward 2 mentioned it very clearly. It's a crisis on housing, affordable housing. I'm not in favor of developers to bring, housing that people can afford. I think that we have too much of that. We need to create some affordable housing so people can live in Salem and make sure that not only the people that can afford a single house live here, but also people who cannot afford a single house can live here. That's the only way we're going to continue to grow. We need to be open to the growth. This is the new generation, not only Salem, but you can see that in other cities. So we need to make sure that we prepare for that. Based on the district, like just mentioned, the downtown area is an area that will be affected if we don't do something in that regard. So we need to be open to that. In other areas, we need to come with a formula to make sure that we accommodate and make sure that we continue to grow, but we cannot stop growing. This is something that is here. If we don't do something now about the affordable housing crisis that's coming on our way, we're going to lose a lot of people here. We're going to lose a lot of young people who actually wanted to bring some of the resources to Salem, but they cannot afford it to live here and they had to move. I had to say that my daughter, and I'm just only that's a personal testimony, she decided to move to Boston. The reason why is because she cannot afford to have a apartment here because it's not affordable. So she just graduated from college, and she's actually decided to be in another city. So we're losing some resources by not having, accommodate the need of people in Salem. So that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Milo, Councilor McCarthy, Councilor Madore.
Thank you, Madam President. Clearly, there are a lot of questions about this, and we've been deliberating for about 20 minutes now. So I would say before we have the full subcommittee meeting on the floor, that we move the question.
Thank you. Okay. Then, can I call on them still?
I concur.
Okay, moving the question. Do you still want to speak, or are we moving on?
I didn't quite hear it, sorry.
I'm sorry. So, Councilor Milo recommended moving the question. Councilor McCarthy, when I looked at him, because he was next in line, he agreed to just move the question. So I guess it falls on you. Did you want to say anything else about this matter, or do you want to move the question? Because the motion on the floor right now is to send this to Ola, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole.
Can I move to suspend the rules and allow Mr. Mitch and/or
should do
Mr.
that in the
Daniel to
committee.
address?
You should do that in the committee.
That's up to the will of the body. Do we want to suspend the rules? No?
If it's going to committee,
No?
we should do this in
Okay.
committee.
That's fine with me.
So, the motion on the floor then is to move this to ordinances, licenses, and legal affairs, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole. Motion by Councilor Madore, seconded by Councilor Dominguez. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Petitions.
Request from Hawk to hold their walk and use the city streets on May 12, 2018, housekeeping purposes only.
Councilor Madore.
Thank you, Madam President. This is just some housekeeping. I guess there was a miscommunication in terms of the Hawk Group applying for a permit to close down the roads, and somehow a ball got dropped, so we're just making sure that the record reflects that they are permitted to hold their walk this Saturday.
And they got the 6 signatures. I
They
think
did
we
get
all
the
have a copy of that. So, Councilor Madore moves that this be granted.
Move for this to be granted.
Yep. And no further discussion. So on Councilor Madore's motion that this be granted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We request from the residents of Bayview Avenue to hold a block party on Sunday, May 27, 2018, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Councilor McCarthy.
Copy, sorry.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that it be granted.
Councilor McCarthy moves that this be granted under discussion.
It seems that somebody in my family's graduating from college tomorrow, and that we're going to have a little neighborhood party to celebrate his graduation, and has become sort of a thing where we live. It's a lot easier with all the little kids running around and stuff, that we just cordon off one little section, and all the neighbors, we went and spoke to all the neighbors, they're in agreement. So it's kind of an exciting time.
Congratulations. And on Councilor McCarthy's motion that this be granted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions?
We have the following license applications: public guide, taxi operators, and vehicle for hire operators only.
Councilor McCarthy.
Do we want to waive the reading? Waive the reading. I'm only kidding. Move that it be granted.
Councilor McCarthy moves that these be granted under discussion.
No discussion.
Seeing no discussion on Councilor McCarthy's motion that these be granted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
The following license applications for 3 tag days.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that these matters be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs.
Councilor McCarthy moves that the matter be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs under discussion.
No discussion.
Seeing no discussion. On Councilor McCarthy's motion that these be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have 3 claims.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that these matters be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs.
Councilor McCarthy moves that this matter be referred to the Committee on Ordinance, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, assuming no discussion, correct?
No discussion.
No discussion. So on Councilor McCarthy's motion, that these be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have 1 constable bond.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that this matter be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs and returned approved.
Councilor McCarthy moves that this be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs and returned approved. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Unfinished business.
We have a second passage of an ordinance amending traffic, Chapter 42, Section 10, one-way streets is hereby amended by adding Orange Square from Broad Street to Hathorn Street in the southwesterly direction, only one-way traffic.
Councilor Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that this be adopted for second and final passage.
Councilor Peterson moves for adoption for second and final passage. Under discussion.
No discussion.
Seeing no discussion on Councilor Peterson's motion that this be adopted for second and final passage, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Councilor Sargent.
Council Sergeant moves for adjournment.
Councilor Sargent moves for adjournment. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.